From Peterson turning into a phenomenon for his controversial opinions, to even celebrities liking his ability to speak out on sensitive topics, is Jordan Peterson's negative attention really being confused for success? After all, how else could this mild-mannered psychology professor from the University of Toronto become such a massive phenomenon? Think about it. When you take a look at most of Peterson's early life and career, a lot of it feels like it's something that's supposed to simply fade into obscurity. His upbringing and early education were fairly standard, and sure, he spent time at some prestigious institutes like Harvard, but tons of other professors have too. So what exactly makes Peterson such an alluring figure for millions of people around the world? Well, his rise to fame really happened in 2016. That's when he released a series of videos on YouTube where he openly criticized Bill C-16 in Canada, which aimed to introduce gender identity and expression. This was kind of the turning point in Peterson's life, because it allowed him to tap into a wider audience of folks who liked him for the somewhat outlandish things he said. For some people, being accurate isn't the most important thing. Instead, the road to success comes down to your ability to confidently say hot takes and stuff that's considered politically incorrect. In a lot of ways, Jordan is a guy who's perfectly suited for the political scene right now. His conservative views just click with YouTube and the right-wing media. You know the videos of conservative thinkers destroying liberals that keep popping up? That's kind of the crowd Peterson appeals to, and in a lot of ways, the negative attention that comes with that is what keeps him trending on everyone's feeds. I mean, would the guy really be as famous today if he didn't get all this negative press? Now, let's be clear. I'm not denying that he's done his work too and climbed the social ladder. If nothing else, he knows how to influence people and make his ideas digestible by millions of people. That's got some value of its own. But there's just no denying that as much as his fanboys and followers like to keep him relevant, the bulk of the work is still done by people who criticize him or even outright hate everything that he stands for. And when this negative crowd starts making a ton of noise, that gets his fans riled up too, which gives off the idea that he's some super learned and polarizing figure that's successful at getting people involved and changing minds, when the truth is that he's really just someone who knows how to get people to argue over nothing. Consider this as an example. So back in February 2023, Peterson somehow started a war between his fans and haters over something as silly as toilet paper. And I wish I was kidding. Apparently, the so-called brilliant philosopher didn't like how the toilet paper dispenser had a sign asking folks not to use more than an arm's length. You know, to prevent waste. Now, most people would just shrug and move on with their lives. But I'm guessing Peterson decided this would be the best opportunity to start a fire and give off the aura of his success. You see, he went right to Twitter and made a whole post about this injustice. In his post, he called out woke moralists and how they were never going to be able to achieve anything. Apparently, he felt like acts like these never really changed the bigger issues. And even if that's right, the fact that he got so worked up over a simple message he encountered at a toilet paper dispenser is honestly kind of hilarious. Of course, as soon as he tweeted this, the internet was ablaze with controversy. I'm sure most people couldn't understand the words they were reading. But then again, there were fans who were supporting him too. And get this, they were posting pictures of them wasting toilet paper, as if they're standing against the system by flushing perfectly good toilet paper away. Peterson's little fiasco didn't achieve much, but it showed how he's able to get people riled up and, even with a ton of negative attention coming his way, is able to keep up that facade of being a super intellectual thinker. To someone who's from the outside looking in, Peterson's stance on this issue might even make sense. But that's the thing. It's his ability to get folks to agree with his side without actually having much of anything of benefit to say. Most of the time, that's why he's managed to remain so successful over the years. If you're still not convinced, let's talk about the C-16 bill again. As I mentioned earlier, talking against this bill back in 2016 was one of the first times Peterson got mainstream success. The point of the bill was to make sure that the rights of trans individuals were safe. But of course, Peterson was able to distort that idea and say that it'd lead to some kind of totalitarian regime where people would have to use compelled speech all the time. His argument was essentially to make it look like you'd eventually go to jail for mistaking someone's pronouns. Even at the time, the experts clarified that there was nothing in the bill that even referred to pronouns. But Jordan continued to go about his regularly scheduled fearmongering. In a way, that was the first instance of him using negative press to boost his own success. And boy, did it do wonders for him. But years later, did any of what Jordan warned people about come true? Well, not really. Bill C-16 hasn't led to any kind of charges related to pronoun usage, which has led to people wondering if Jordan always just knew that he was being super hyperbolic in his original opposition, if he truly did believe the things that he was dishing out to people all over the world. It's kind of tough to know for sure, but either way, it worked out really well for him in the end. And that's not the only time he said something unbelievably outlandish just for attention. I'm sure y'all remember the time he tried to prove he knew more about Christianity than the Pope. So, as it turns out, the Pope decided to make a post about social justice and how it's a good idea to fight against issues like poverty and inequality. It's pretty boilerplate stuff, and honestly, it's tough to see anyone having a problem with what he said. But Jordan, being Jordan, had a huge issue with it. And this was the Pope's usage of the word social justice. You see, Peterson considers the whole idea to be un-Christian, and he thought he'd school the Pope on Christianity by setting the record straight. But of course, people were not having it. When Peterson tweeted out his disagreement with the Pope's statement, many others criticized his own bias and how he was unable to see the concept of social justice beyond his own small view of what it is. For anyone who isn't too worried about the semantics, Pope Francis didn't say anything that was worth getting mad over. But Jordan was able to turn this into yet another moment where he fans the flames and lets people argue on his behalf, while all the negative attention further gives off the illusion of his success. And it seems it's not just folks on the internet who are buying into it, because even celebrities like Matthew McConaughey think that Peterson is successful, just because he's been on the verge of getting canceled multiple times. Matthew's admiration for Jordan isn't much of a secret. The two have talked a lot about cancel culture, and the star has even appeared on Jordan's podcast. In their chat, they dove deep into the whole cancel culture thing, using Louis C.K. as a case in point. Now, not everyone was thrilled about McConaughey being so vocal about his appreciation of Peterson. But hey, everyone's got a right to their opinion, right? The dude even gave Peterson a shout-out in the acknowledgments of his book, Greenlights. But why exactly is Matthew such a big fan? Well, as he puts it, Peterson has the ability to put into words some ideas that Matthew has always thought about, but hasn't known how to verbalize. So when he saw Peterson say these things out loud, things really clicked for Matthew, which only goes to show just how much power there is in having the right hot take that can get people to join your side. With his controversial persona and his ability to easily get people fighting for or against him, it's no surprise to see Peterson as such a polarizing figure. But when you take a step back and look at things from a wider perspective, doesn't it become obvious that he mostly uses his ability to rile people up as a way of gaining more attention? Sure, he's got a good point every now and again, but it really does make you wonder if people are just starting to confuse all this negative attention he gets with his being successful and influential. So from even celebrities liking his ability to speak out on sensitive topics to Peterson turning into a phenomenon for his controversial opinions, that was how Jordan Peterson's negative attention is being confused for success.